On today's Dinging Corners, we're talking about baseball, just baseball. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's Dinging Corners. Hey guys, before we get into today's podcast, I want to talk to you about my breaks. So, as you know, I've done breaks in the past at the Slab Stocks headquarters, but now we are branching out. I am doing breaks remotely. And so, anytime you see baseball, basketball, or football on the slabstocks.com/shop page, which you can see on the screen here, that will be me breaking from now on. And so, you'll notice that there is a select 4-team or 5-team break here, 5 guaranteed spot, 5 teams, 5 top teams, the Hornets, the Kings, the Timberwolves, so on and so forth. That will be me. And then also, and that breaks next Wednesday. And then also you have the 3-box random team Bowman hobby break, 6 autos, a bunch of colors, a bunch of Bowman firsts. And that will also be me next Wednesday. So if you enjoy the channel, if you want to get into some breaks, if you want to join, if you don't want to get into the breaks and you just want to join our YouTube channel on Wednesdays and talk to me, or our Instagram channel, because we Instagram live it too, and you want to chat with me and talk baseball or basketball or football or maybe soccer, I don't know, hockey, I don't know anything about hockey, but you can talk to me about it. Please join. And let's have a good time on Wednesdays. So thank you, everyone, for listening to this. Now on to the rest of the podcast. Regular season, which is absurd, a very long time. That's 6 months. Yeah, 6 months, which is an insanely long season. So it's long for the players. It's long for the fans. It's long for those of us that are doing content around it. And so the MLB season can get pretty grinding, even though it's enjoyable. And I love everything about it, and I love watching the Brewers play and stuff, and I love watching other games. It can get a little bit long. And then you get to a game like last night. The Dodgers and the Cardinals, one game, win or go home, and a game like that makes everything about the baseball season worth it. All the late nights, all of the midday games that you miss or you watch, all of the injuries you have to suffer through, and the excitement and the lows if you're an Orioles fan having to suffer through the Orioles playing baseball, or if you're a Brewers fan like myself and you enjoy it but now you have expectations of being even better when it's easier to have no expectations, and now if we lose in the playoffs it's going to be a major disappointment. And so you have all of these emotions wrapped up in baseball. At least I do, and I'm sure you guys do if you're watching this too. And it's kind of tough. And then you get to a game like last night, and that was the perfect baseball game to me, because I didn't want either team to win. As a Brewers fan, and I know I'm supposed to be impartial if I'm doing like media stuff or whatever, but I'm a Brewers fan. I'm a Brewers fan. And I don't want the Cardinals to win. I just don't. But I also don't want the Dodgers to win, because the Dodgers are like the antithesis of the Brewers. The Brewers don't have much money to spend. The Dodgers have all the money to spend in the world. Of course, the Dodgers don't need to spend all the money in the world because they're stinking good at figuring out how to draft players and develop them. Corey Seager, Cody Bellinger, Will Smith, Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw. They have prospects they don't have to use. They can have guys like Dustin May go down, and it doesn't matter. They've got prospects they can use to go acquire Max Scherzer and Justin Turner if they want, because while their prospects, the players they have up are amazing, all the guys they have in the minors also really good, so they can go acquire top-end talent like Max Scherzer and Trey Turner, which is super frustrating. But then they can also just go grab scrap heap guys like Chris Taylor, Max Muncy, those guys. Chris Taylor especially, after what he did last night. And so you have a team that is good at drafting, good at trading for guys, good at pulling guys off the scrap heap and turning them into everyday useful players, or stars in Max Muncy's case, and have a ton of money if they want to go out and spend a ton of money on whatever player they could possibly want. And so for me, the Brewers, they can draft and develop pitching at the very least, but the rest of it, and grab some scrap heap guys, but the rest of it, they can't do. They just don't have the ability. They don't have the ability to trade for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner and take on those salaries midseason. They just don't. You just can't do it unless the Nationals are willing to eat most of the salary, which they probably wouldn't be. And so, I don't have anything against the Dodgers per se, outside of the fact that they're really good and they have a ton of money. If they didn't have a ton of money and they're good at everything else, all right, I'd be fine. But it's the fact that they can be good at literally everything, and then on top of that, add any free agent they could ever want, or just re-sign all their guys. It's hard to re-sign all your guys if they're good. A lot of small clubs run into this, where the Brewers ran into this with Prince Fielder, want to re-sign him. CC Sabathia, want to re-sign him, but not going to be able to. Don't have the money. And so for that reason, I also didn't want the Dodgers to win. I also didn't want the Dodgers to win because in a 7-game, you can beat anybody in one game. The Orioles, for how bad they were, still won plenty of games on the season, right? And so you can win any one game, especially if you're already a good team, and the Cardinals are a good team. And so the best chance to take out the Dodgers was in one game. The second best chance is obviously the Giants only having to win 3 and not 4 in a 5-game series. But you get to 7 games with the Dodgers in that lineup, if they're all healthy, that's hard to deal with. And then you have Max Scherzer and Walker Buehler and Julio Urias and Clayton Kershaw, though he is injured and probably not going to be playing. But still. And then your bullpen is amazing. Corey Knebel and Kenley Jansen and Blake Trinan and Brusdar Graterol, and the list keeps going and going and going. They are just loaded, and there's no weak spot on that team. And so if you have to play 7 games, it's really tough. So that brings us to last night in that wild card game, and that was perfection, because I sat there wanting both teams to lose. I would have loved if both teams somehow lost. Of course, that can't happen. So then before the game started, I was like, all right, at least one of these teams is going to lose. I do not have to endure one of these teams in the playoffs moving forward. That will be nice. And then the game started. And I mean, it takes a lot for me to have a cheering interest, a rooting interest in one of those games. And I wasn't rooting for either team. I was just rooting for the game because that's how amazing it was. Max Scherzer not getting out of the 5th inning, having a ton of pitches, so many 3-2 counts, and yet he only gave up 1 run. Adam Wainwright, 40 years old. Max Scherzer is 37. Adam Wainwright's 40. They're starting their wild card game for the team. Win or go home. A 37-year-old and a 40-year-old. That's a beautiful thing about baseball. You'd never see that in basketball. I guess you'd see that in football, quarterbacks-wise, but baseball, you can have that, where you have a 40-year-old facing off a 37-year-old in a win-or-go-home game, and the 40-year-old outpitched the 37-year-old, the Max Scherzer, who's Cy Young potential this year and won plenty of Cy Youngs. And it's Max Scherzer who had a worse game, and yet the Dodgers just brought out bullpen piece after bullpen piece after bullpen piece, and the Cardinals to an extent did too, and it's 1-1. Justin Turner obviously had that big home run in the 4th inning off of a Wainwright curveball of all things, which is incredible because Adam Wainwright's curveball is just absolutely filthy. And it's 1-1 going into the 9th inning, and you're like, oh. And all I wanted was an Albert Pujols home run, and he gave it a ride, but not far enough. And then you get Cody Bellinger, who had a nice game. Cody Bellinger struggled. He hit a $180 in the second half of the season, just atrocious, 200 plus on base, 200 plus slugging, one of the worst hitters in the league in the second half. And then yesterday he had a single, he had 2 walks, he had 2 steals, and he technically scored the game-winning run. It was 3-1, but he was on base when Chris Taylor in the 9th inning. Chris Taylor, who had been struggling, Chris Taylor, who hadn't gotten a ton of hits in his last 70-some at-bats. I think he was 16 for his last 70-something or 80-something. like just not very good. Chris Taylor, who feels like he should be a Cardinals player and that he was grabbed off a scrap heap and then he was all of a sudden good, and that's like the Cardinals way. Guys you've never heard of, Tommy Edman, Tommy Pham, Jeremy Hazelbaker or something, whatever his name was. I forget his name now. But so many Cardinals guys that just get pulled off the scrap heap and all of a sudden are good for a year or two. Aledmys Diaz, and then kind of disappear. And Chris Taylor's kind of like that. Pulled off the scrap heap, pretty good, but kind of not good, and then pretty good, and then kind of not good. And then last night, because the Dodgers lineup is relentless, it's Chris Taylor of all guys, not Trey Turner, not Corey Seager, not Cody Bellinger, even though he's not very good, not Justin Turner, not Will Smith, not A.J. Pollock. Chris Taylor is the one who hit the walk-off home run. And that's what makes this Dodgers team so tough, is that they have so many guys up and down that lineup, almost every guy up and down that lineup, that can get into one pretty easily, even without Max Muncy, with him being injured. And so this lineup is relentless, and that game was just so much fun. That was the most beautiful baseball game. Two teams, both a little bit obnoxious, both good. One team that's been good all year, one team that had one of the hottest months in their entire franchise's history, meeting up, a 40-year-old against a 37-year-old, and it came down to Chris Taylor. He had a walk-off home run off of Alex Reyes, who Alex Reyes, the last 3 times he has pitched in the 9th inning, has given up a walk-off home run. One to Yoshi Tsutsugo, one to a walk-off grand slam to Daniel Vogelbach, and I was at that game. And then obviously the walk-off home run to Chris Taylor. A very tough stretch for Alex Reyes, and pretty unfortunate for a guy who had a very promising start to his career. We'll see if he gets that flipped around next year. But that was a beautiful, beautiful game, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it, because we have some more amazing, amazing, amazing baseball coming our way, right? Just incredible. So we've got Houston and the White Sox. That's coming up today. We've got the Red Sox and the Rays. That's coming up tonight. We've got the Braves and the Brewers. That's starting tomorrow, and I'm a Brewers fan. I'm excited about that. And we've got the Dodgers and the Giants, which is going to be incredible. This is the first playoff appearance against the Dodgers and the Giants in their histories, and you couldn't ask for anything better. A 107-win team against 100, I guess, and 7-win team now with that win in the wild card last night. 207-win teams. The difference in their season, the difference between having to play in the wild card and win the division, was one single game. The Giants won one game head-to-head against the Dodgers. One more game head-to-head against the Dodgers. And that's the difference. If the Dodgers win that game, they're 107. The Giants are 106. But the Giants won that game. And so now, Giants home field advantage, playing the Dodgers. That big park kind of neutralizes a lot of the Dodgers' power, which is nice. And we're going to see how that goes. I'm very excited for that. The one thing the Giants have going for them, Max Scherzer's already pitched. He probably won't pitch until like game 3 of that series, at which point, you've already made it through Walker Buehler, Julio Urias at that point. The Giants, on the other hand, they're an unfortunate circumstance with Brandon Belt, but I'm pretty excited about that series. The second series that, the Brewers and the Braves, I'm excited about that. Obviously, the Brewers pitching, everyone knows about it. Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta have been amazing all year. Adrian Hauser has been really good. Eric Lauer has been really good. We're talking a 5-man rotation where every single guy has like under a 3.5 ERA. And 3 of the guys have under a 3 ERA. And 2 of the guys have around a 2.5 ERA. So we're talking about a rotation that's amazing. You take one of those guys out of the rotation and you can put them into the bullpen. The bullpen that just lost Devin Williams because he punched a wall. But we're getting back Jake Cousins, the man who pitched in independent league baseball last year and is now in the majors, having some of the nastiest stuff in baseball, striking out guys left and right, and is yet another in a long line of dominant Brewers pitching projects. You also have Aaron Ashby to go along with Josh Hader. You throw in an Adrian Hauser into that bullpen with his nasty sinker. And, you've got the recipe for a team that could beat any team, but you got to do it with defense and pitching because the offense is going to there. It's a fine offense. It's a fine offense since Willie Adames trade, since Rowdy Tellez got in there. It's been a fine offense. Luis Arias has been nice. Omar Narvaez has been nice. Avisail Garcia has been nice. Christian Yelich has been fine. He's been a disappointment, but he's been fine. And you get a lot of guys that are slightly above average hitters, 105 to 110 to 111. Colton Wong, WRC pluses, and you can put up some runs. Especially with somebody as good as Willie Adames in the middle of the order. But that's a team that has to face just as good of a pitching staff in like a Walker Buehler if we have to face the Giants and a Max Scherzer, and then you have to face an even better offense. That's tough. But facing the Braves, Max Fried is nice, Ian Anderson is nice, Charlie Morton is old now, but he's a vet. And so like for them, the Braves pitching not nearly as good, the Braves bullpen not nearly as exciting, but what they do have is they got some pop, and obviously they have Freddie Freeman and they have Ozzie Albies. Austin Riley had a really nice year, right? Dansby Swanson's always a nice player. Not exactly the number one overall pick that you're expecting, but Dansby Swanson's a nice player. But then you have Adam Duvall and Eddie Rosario and Jorge Soler that they traded for. No Ronald Acuna, obviously, or else the team would be significantly better. But they got some major pop in that lineup. And so that's concern for me is that while the Brewers pitching is good, it only takes 1-2 mistakes for this Braves lineup to punish you because they've got pop all over the place and big time pop. And so for me, I'm not overly worried about the Braves. I should be probably. This is a team that could potentially upset you because of their lineup. I'm not too worried. I'm more worried about playing the Giants or the Dodgers, but you got to get through the Braves first, and they are a spunky team. And so I've got hopefully the Giants winning the Giants-Dodgers series and the Brewers winning the Brewers-Braves series. But the Braves do pose a threat. Next series is Boston and the Rays. And this is exciting because obviously Boston just played the Yankees. They beat them. And now they are playing the Rays, same division. Rays on the one hand, they're going into the season or into the playoffs with 3 rookie pitchers. Shane McClanahan, rookie, really good, but a rookie. Shane Baz, rookie, really good, but a rookie. And then Drew Rasmussen. Drew Rasmussen was in the Willie Adames trade. You'll remember JP Fireeyes, Drew Rasmussen for Willie Adames. At the time, I was like, man, Willie Adames hasn't been that good at hitting, but he's a decent defender. Seems like we just maybe traded for a better Orlando Arcia, right? And Drew Rasmussen and JP Fireeyes are 2 really good relievers, so it feels like we weakened the bullpen to make the lineup just a little bit better and the defense a little bit better. Well, and then they got Jake Cousins in there, right? And we traded for a couple of relievers at the trade deadline, though one, John Curtis, tore his arm. And so it was a bit tough to be missing those bullpen pieces. But Willie Adames obviously made up for it in a big way. Well, now you move forward to the Rays, and they still have JP Fireeyes. He's a stud. Drew Rasmussen is probably their best starter in the last, month, which is crazy to me. Now, the Brewers didn't want to use him as a starter because he'd already had 2 Tommy John surgeries before even getting drafted. And I'm sure they wanted to reduce the amount of stress on his elbow, but he is a very good pitcher, and he has been their best starter the last month, and he only goes around 4 innings a start. But with the Rays bullpen like that, you can handle that. You can handle that with the way they handle their bullpen. And so 4 innings from Drew Rasmussen, if he does it in Game 3, if they don't need him before that point, it's a nice rotation, but it's terrifying going into a series like that with 3 rookies. I like the team. I love the depth. Obviously, you have Wander Franco, you have Nelson Cruz, right? You have Mike Zunino, G-Man Choi, guys like that, Brandon Lowe. Everyone's so good on that lineup, but that rotation is 3 rookies, and there's a lot of stress to put on rookies, especially guys. Now, the Red Sox rotation also isn't very good. Nathan Eovaldi has already pitched. Chris Sale's coming back from injury. Tanner Houck is a rookie. Nick Pivetta, Eduardo Rodriguez, right? It's a risk. On their end, Garrett Whitlock's a stud, but like there is risk in the Red Sox rotation too. But you're facing Kyle Schwarber. You're facing Rafael Devers. You're facing J.D. Martinez and Xander Bogaerts. All a bunch of guys who have done this before. Obviously, the Rays have done this before, but a bunch of guys who've done this before. And while the Red Sox pitching staff isn't overly exciting to me, outside of Tanner Houck, it's a bunch of guys who have been here and done that so far. And so while I want the Rays to win, the pitching staff there is a big question mark, having 3 rookies go into the playoffs. Playing a division series against a division opponent, and the division opponent has a good offense of their own, and also they have veteran pitchers on their team. So we'll see what happens there. I would like the Rays to win, but I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if the Red Sox upset them just because of how iffy the Rays rotation is right now with those 3 rookies. They're good. They're very good. But Tyler Glasnow not being there and Ryan Yarbrough being trash is a major blow to the Rays' chances of getting back to the World Series. And then the last game, and this is at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and that is the White Sox and the Astros. And I'm actually super excited for this. On one hand, you have the Astros. They led the league in WRC Plus as a team. They also led the league in least amount of strikeouts as a team. They were amazing. And, you have Yordan Alvarez, and you have Kyle Tucker, and you have Jose Altuve, and you have Alex Bregman, and you have Carlos Correa, and, the list goes on, Yuri Gurriel. The list goes on. They are a great team. They are a great team. Their pitching, on the other hand, Zach Greinke's probably not going to be in the rotation. Now, not all these teams have their lineup set yet, but Zach Greinke's probably not going to be in the rotation. So you got Lance McCullers, you got Framber Valdez, you have Luis Garcia, Jake Odorizzi. A good rotation, an amazing offense, a good rotation. But the White Sox, Lucas Giolito, Lance Lynn, Dylan Cease, Carlos Rodon, I'll take that. Now, Carlos Rodon obviously is a pop-up. He's been bad for most of his career despite being the 3rd overall pick, but he is really good this year. And Dylan Cease is a rookie last year, not a rookie this year, but he's really young, but he was incredible. And actually, while we're at it, Dylan Cease is the type of guy that if I find autos, Topps Chrome autos for $10 or under, like on ComC or something, I'm buying. Dylan Cease is like 2 seconds away from breaking out next year and being one of the best pitchers in the league. That's the feeling I get. And so I'm buying Dylan Cease right now. I like the guy. That's a sidebar. But I like this rotation. I like the fact that you got Lucas Giolito and Lance Lynn fronting this rotation. I'll take that over Lance McCullers and Framber Valdez or Luis Garcia or Jake Odorizzi. I'll take those 2 guys. And I'll take the potential of Dylan Cease and Carlos Rodon over any other 2 guys the Astros want to put at him. And then in the back end, you obviously have Liam Hendricks and you have Craig Kimbrell, you have Garrett Crochet, you have Aaron Bummer. You have got Michael Kopech, who's amazing. So this White Sox rotation and this White Sox bullpen is tough to handle. And they've got the veteran presence. They've got guys that have been here before. And they have the Eloy Jimenez's, the Luis Roberts, the Jose Abreu's, the Yoan Moncadas of the world. Like, their lineup is no slouch either. Imagine if they didn't trade for James Shields and had Fernando Tatis. Tim Anderson, they've got Tim Anderson, but imagine if they had Fernando Tatis. So much better. And so this White Sox team, I think people are going to be surprised at how good they are and how the Astros, for how good they are, they might not stand a chance against this White Sox team. The White Sox team is more complete to me than the Astros team. And so I'm going with the White Sox. The White Sox, the Rays, though I think the Red Sox have a real good chance, the Brewers and the Giants for my playoff predictions. Let me know in the comments what you think, who you think is going to win. Let me know If you have any upsets, who you think is going to be the most valuable player, let me know what you got for the playoffs. It's super exciting. I think we're in line for a ton of great matchups. We've already had 2 really good games, but that Dodgers-Cardinals game was everything that makes baseball good. I don't like either team, and yet I was up 11:40, well past my bedtime, watching that, enjoying it, and just enjoying baseball for baseball. And that's the beautiful thing about baseball. Even when you don't like either team, you can just enjoy baseball for baseball. Who cares who wins? Who cares who loses? Sometimes baseball is a beautiful game, and I love talking about it. I hope you guys love watching it, love hearing about it, love reading about it, the whole 9 yards. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening to today's Dinging Corners. Thank you for always tuning in. Please, if you get the chance, follow Dinging Corners on Instagram. We just started a page. We've got a baseball post a day. Most of it is playoff centered right now. So if you get a chance, follow, enjoy, and I will talk to you guys again.